In today's Leeds news, Kinnear with club update, Greenwood exceeding expectations, dream to play for Leeds, Creswell speaks on playing time, and Leeds keen on Brownhill. Morning folks, Jay here at The View for your Leeds news on Thursday morning the 21st of November. Hope you're having a good week so far. There's actually a little bit of stuff to get stuck into after the barren that was yesterday's news, and thank you to everyone who took the time to watch yesterday's news. There was no major outside of Leeds news or transfers or sponsorships or anything like that. It was very much an internal Leeds update, and it's nice to see people taking an interest in a video that focuses on Sam Chambers, one of the youth players at Leeds coming through. So thanks to everyone who's watched that. You can also check out last night's preview in the podcast. Myself and Ben Locklocky Leeds sat down to talk about Leeds' next 5 games after the international break and what's expected and what we can look forward to in those games. You can check them out at the end of the video if you want. But today there's a bit of stuff to get stuck into, and we're going to start off with a pretty hot topic on the threads this morning, and that is Angus Kinnear's latest meeting with the Leeds United Supporters Advisory Board, and to get an update on what's going on behind the scenes at Leeds United. There's been a lot of change behind the scenes at Leeds in the recruitment team, as well as announcements on partnerships for the club with Fanatics and Adidas new deals. But we didn't hear an awful lot about that, but this meeting was focused around supporters, season ticket waiting list to the stadium development, as well as the playing squad at the moment. And in the meeting, Kinnear revealed that the club is shaping up very nicely behind the scenes and is very happy with what the team is doing on the pitch. And speaking on the squad specifically around the Plymouth game, Kinnear said the following: "There's a real confidence and togetherness in this squad at the minute. Games against Plymouth were a good example of how the team wants to dominate while also being able to rotate and bring youth players through," talking about Sam Chambers and the lads getting off the bench, Charlie Crew getting off the bench in that game in the second half. But it's easy to do that when you're 3-0 up at half time, and Leeds haven't been in that position in every single game, which makes getting the young players more minutes a little bit more tricky. And I think most of us can agree that Leeds probably should have most teams out of sight in the first half, but it remains to be seen. But he went on to talk about stadium developments and went on to say that the surveys have gone out around the stadium plans and development, and that will hopefully, he says, streamline the approach going forward. So very much a case of things still ticking along behind the scenes on the stadium development. He went on then to talk about the season ticket holder waiting list, and big shout out to Dan Moylan from the Square Ball for pursuing this with him in his yearly sit down with Angus Kinnear, because it appears to have hit the mark. Dan Moylan made a very interesting point that because supporters are paying to be on that waiting list, it's a product, and therefore they're entitled to know where they sit in the waiting list. Well, that appears to have gotten a reaction from Leeds and from Kinnear. Kinnear says the fans on the waiting list will receive an email in the coming days or weeks that will let them know where they are in the position in the season ticket queue. He said this will help to aid transparency, and as I said already, big shout out to Dan Moylan and Square Ball for pursuing that one. I'm on that waiting list. I'd like to get a season ticket, but I think I'm pretty far down the pecking order. But it's great to see that comment from the meeting with Angus Kinnear has led to maybe some action now, and goes to show that having people from the club on the Square Ball each year can actually make an impact, and fans' voices can be heard directly. So well done to Square Ball. Moving on to Leeds loanee who's out at the club at the moment, and that's Sam Greenwood. And outside of one red card for Sam Greenwood so far this season, his loan is going as well as can be expected, or in some cases it's actually exceeding expectation. Former manager Ryan Lowe commented earlier this year about how keen he was to get Greenwood in because of the qualities that he can give on either side of the pitch or through the middle. And now under current head coach Paul Heckingbottom, the player has taken up more of a central role within the side. The Lancashire Evening Post have done a piece on Sam Greenwood's loan. They've given him a 7 out of 10, but they say the following on the player: "The on-loan Leeds United man has played a central role under Paul Heckingbottom, who has started him in 8 of the 10 league games Greenwood has been available for. The red card against Blackburn Rovers was a real setback, though it's one the attacking midfielder is keen to learn from. There is a very likeable energy, enthusiasm and tenacity to his game to go with the technical ability, which comes as little surprise given his pedigree." It's great to see Sam Greenwood doing well at Preston. There is a £1.5 million option to buy in that loan agreement. The same option was in the Borough loan last season, and he started on fire there, went off the ball, and Borough decided not to exercise that option and bring the player in. But from a Preston North End perspective, he's doing quite well. You would imagine it's an affordable price, and if he continues, the consistency is the big thing with Sam. If he can continue that for the rest of the year, very likely that they'll try and exercise that. It's not a lot of money. It's quite cheap for a player that could add a lot of value. I think there's a very good player in Sam Greenwood. I've been saying it for years. it's just a matter of getting that consistency from him, and his energy now being talked about is very different to what we saw at Leeds. He's more mobile and moving around a lot more, so great to see. And then moving on to an interesting and surprising story that came out this week around a player who wants to play for Leeds United but hasn't been linked with Leeds United in any way. It's a very strange but also interesting story. Norwegian centre-back Nikolai Hopland, who currently plays for Eredivisie side Heerenveen in the Netherlands, has made an interesting statement in a recent interview. We've all heard from players who signed for Leeds United talk about the stature of the club, the size of the club, and you don't realise it till you get into the club. And I also talked about when Leeds come calling, you don't say no. Well, this one's a little bit different because the Norway under-21 international spoke to Voteball Premier about his dream to move to West Yorkshire and to continue his love affair with Leeds United. And on this, and in that interview, Hopland said the following: "People often laugh when I say this, but since I was 4, it's always been Leeds United. Together with my father, I've been to about 20 games, and I think I have every shirt that they've had in the last 15 years in my wardrobes. I still watch almost every game, if it works out with our own club schedule. A really great club. It's my dream to play for them one day, and I will do everything I can to make that dream come true." And the Leeds shouldn't be signing players just on sentiment, but Hopland is playing quite well in the top flight in the Netherlands, and consistently as well. The 6'2" centre-back could actually fit Daniel Farke's system quite well should Leeds decide to have a look at him. He's valued at under £1 million currently according to SofaScore. That's not a fair metric on what the value of the transfer value of the player would be, but he started 7 of the Heerenveen's 10 games so far. He's been in the Dutch Team of the Week once. He's 6'2", as I say, and he's averaging 1 shot on target per game, a big chance per game, which is our centre-backs don't currently do. And Heerenveen are currently sitting mid-table in 12th position in the Dutch top flight. So it's an interesting one. I just thought I'd bring it to people. I haven't seen it floating around too much, but it's a player that is very, very young, has a long standing, and the 15 years he's supported Leeds, not the best 15 years for Leeds United. So clearly a player that would love to play for the club. We'll keep an eye on him, see what happens with him in the future. But Leeds haven't been linked with him. There's no rumour of a transfer for him. But it's just interesting to see a player from another country and another club talk about wanting to come and play for Leeds United. So the draw is still very much there from a fan perspective. Moving on to a player who left Leeds United in the summer, and there's a bit of this going around, but we get it during international breaks. But Charlie Creswell has been speaking about the playing time under Leeds United and how he settled into life at Toulouse, hoping to get a bit more meat on the bone around what happened with Daniel Farke and him. But there's a bit of stuff in this. Leeds sold him to Toulouse back in the summer for £3.8 million, which raised a couple of eyebrows around the fan base, myself included, a year after he'd been handed the number 5 shirt and a 5-year contract and looked like he could be getting consistent game time at Elland Road. Well, that didn't happen, and Creswell and Farke had a pretty public falling out after a social media post from his dad and former Leeds United striker Richard Creswell, also his agent, was put on Instagram saying, "I'd like to see him play again at some point." Apparently Creswell also approached Daniel Farke about his lack of game time, which wasn't received well, either of those well, and Farke responded to this by axing the player from the matchday squad, as well as calling the player out in a press conference as well. But now Creswell has found his feet after a little bit of a shaky start at Toulouse and is enjoying regular playing time at the French club. Now speaking with La Dépêche, Creswell said, "All I needed was to play matches in a row to get back to my level and gain confidence. Last year I didn't play much, so it's been a long time since I've been able to play several matches in a row. Today I'm back in shape and enjoying every moment of my football." Creswell started 8 of Toulouse's 10 games so far this season. He's been in the French top flight's team of the week twice. He's kept 4 clean sheets in the 8 starts that he's been involved in, and Toulouse sit mid-table in 10th position in the French top flight. So he's doing okay over there. I'm sure at some point we'll hear about what really happened behind the scenes with Farke and Creswell, but in the meantime, we can all read into what we saw and what was said in the press conference. But it's great to see Charlie playing regular football. I still think there's a really good centre-back there. I think it's one that Leeds might regret letting go for very, very cheap. My preference was loan him out for a year or two. He's on a 5-year contract. What's the rush? But he's moved on and he's gone from the club. A player that Leeds United apparently are said to be keeping a very keen eye on and keen at bringing in at the soonest possible occasion is Burnley skipper Josh Brownhill. Leeds were mentioned in the summer with an interest in the player who had 1 year left on his contract at that point, but it didn't happen. But now, according to the Boot Room Football, they claim that Leeds very much still are keen on bringing the player in. Leeds are said that they want to bring Josh Brownhill in and are aware of the obvious obstacles as well as interest in the player. Brownhill, from a Leeds perspective, ticks an awful lot of boxes. He is 28 years of age, so has experience. He's played Premier League football regularly, so has that Premier League experience, and is the captain of Burnley as well, so leadership qualities are there as well. And the big one, as far as Leeds' strategy goes, is he is into the final few months of his current deal at Burnley, having not signed a new contract just yet. There is plenty of interest in Brownhill, though, who has scored 5 goals and added 1 assist in the 15 games so far from a very low-scoring Burnley side. He's still popping in with goals from midfield, and the 28-year-old hasn't agreed a new deal just yet at the club and is said to be seriously considering his options moving forward. In January, Brownhill can negotiate a pre-contract agreement with a club outside of the UK, and clubs within the UK will have to wait until the summer before they can approach on a possible free transfer. Brownhill, however, could move in January for a discounted fee should Burnley decide to try and bring some money in for their current captain, but it's very unlikely that Burnley would accept that, and Burnley may just view it in a similar capacity as Leeds view Junior Firpo. It's worth keeping him to get promoted and then viewing the situation at that point. Brownhill is said, as I said, to be giving serious consideration to what he does in the future, with West Ham, Fulham, Brighton all interested in him from an English perspective, as well as Fiorentina and Torino interested in him from an outside the UK perspective, and those two clubs could jump the mark on the rest of them should he decide to sign a pre-contract agreement in January with one of them. As I say, it's unlikely that Brownhill swaps one championship favourite for another championship favourite, but once the league table settles itself down heading in towards May, it may be a case the player decides to opt for whoever the Premier League club will be at that point. If it's Leeds, he might decide to move across, but if Burnley also go up, he might sign a new deal and stay put at the club. There's a lot of people aren't excited about Josh Brownhill, but if you look at our midfield options right now, they're all very good, and we've got a very good midfield. Josh Brownhill is a very experienced central midfielder and scores goals from midfield, and he's got 5 already this year as well. We haven't got goals from any of our central midfielders yet this year, and Joe Rothwell's sitting on 1 assist so far, so there is still work that could be done there, and if Leeds do go up, Brownhill could be an obvious player to bring in the midfield area. A very steady hand in midfield. Folks, that'll be it for me today. Massive thanks as always for supporting the channel and watching the content. You can check out yesterday's preview for the next 5 games down below, or yesterday's news, whichever one you fancy. And I'll be back tomorrow morning for more Leeds news. I will talk to you then. Have a great rest of your day. See you soon.